Before we dive in, here's another show you can enjoy in the True Story FM family of entertainment podcasts.
Hey, psst. Hey, you see that Snickers over there? If no one's looking, you should just take it.
No! Don't listen to him, my son. That would be stealing, and stealing is a sin.
Sin Schmin, it's a freaking Snickers bar. You deserve to have it. Sinning really satisfies you.
Repent, my child. Virtue is the only real snack worth savoring. For that candy bar is merely a gateway to nougat damnation. Has this ever happened to you?
Listening to the devil on one shoulder and an angel on the other, and you're not sure what to think?
Then we're here to help. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Tommy Metz III, and this season on All the Feelings, we're examining the 7 deadly sins.
You know, the fun ones.
And the 7 heavenly virtues.
Which are also a thing. Through personal stories, historical oddities, and way too much embarrassment, we take you on a thrilling journey through all the goods and the bads you hear about in church.
But without all that pesky church stuff. So come join us for All the Feelings Season 9, a sometimes funny podcast about being human. All the sins, all the virtues.
All in one place. Go to allthefeelings.fun to learn more, or subscribe to All the Feelings wherever you get your podcasts.
Game over.
Horror movies get a bad rap. They're cheap thrills, mindless gore, not cinema, blah, blah, blah.
But we here at Sitting in the Dark know better. We know that horror is more than just jump scares and chainsaws. It's a reflection of our deepest fears, our anxieties, Okay, and there's a lot of jump scares and chainsaws.
Join us, Pete Wright, Tommy Metz III, Kyle Olson, and Keenan Diaz, as we cut into the dark heart of horror cinema.
Every episode, we explore a different facet of the genre, from survival horror to home invasions, from zombies to birds. We tickle the tropes, analyze the angles, and sharpen our own axes along the way.
We'll introduce you to the classics that shaped the genre.
And the modern masterpieces that are pushing the boundaries of terror.
Sitting in the Dark is your guide to navigating the terrifying, thrilling, and sometimes hilariously bad world of horror movies.
We'll help you understand why we love to be scared.
And maybe even convert you into a horror fan yourself.
So turn off the lights, close the basement door,
and join us.
Sitting in the dark.
Hooked on you, baby, you're golden. Time moves, I never noticed. Just can't get enough. Got me wonderstruck.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Make Me a Nerd with Mandy Kaplan. Hey, that's me. I'm Mandy Kaplan. This is already going so well. I am a mainstream mom who loves all things Taylor Swift and Bachelor and Bachelorette, and now I'm investigating the world of nerd culture, sci-fi, fantasy, video games, all of it, one entity at a time. And each week I get to welcome a brand new special guest to guide me on my mission. And today I get to welcome back a repeat guest, the Geek Girl Authority herself. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm Farscape welcome to Audrey Kearns.
Hey, Mandy.
Hey, lady. How are you?
I'm well. I'm so excited to be back. I had so much fun sharing Farscape with you last time. So I'm excited to take it into the fantasy realm this time.
Yes. Wait, that wasn't fantasy? That's sci-fi. This is fantasy?
Oh, you know what? It is fantasy. In fact, I would go ahead and categorize that as sci-fi space opera Farscape. I would say it was like a little, yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I feel you're very caffeinated, and that makes me very happy. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is early morning. I mean, kind of mid-morning, but I have had a few cups of coffee.
Fantastic.
That is true.
All right.
I don't know if it is.
I've done many, many lines of cocaine.
Excellent.
So we are going to talk about Wheel of Time, which is something I had heard of, but never thought I would watch. That's one of those things. I mean, Farscape I had never even heard of. This was like, oh, Wheel of Time, not for me. So never looked into it, never even watched a trailer. You were very excited to talk about it. And full disclosure for everyone listening, we've had real bad scheduling issues. So I watched it a month ago. I'm sure you've watched. I don't know when you rewatched for this, but full disclosure, we might be forgetting some stuff. Okay, please forgive me. So, Wheel of Time, what's it about? I don't remember.
So, Wheel of Time. So there is a book series, Wheel of Time book series, and then there's the television show that came out on Prime Video a few years ago, and season 3 starts in March. And I was a big fan of the books. I think there's 12 or 13 books plus a prequel, which I've read multiple times.
No, who has the
And
time, Audrey? How do you
I
do
know,
that?
right? What was wrong with me? But they've been around. The author is Robert Jordan. They've been around for decades, and he actually passed away before I think the last 2 or 3 books were written. But he sat down with another very famous fantasy author named Brandon Sanderson, and Brandon Sanderson wrote the last few books.
Gotcha.
Trying to honor Robert Jordan as much as
Yeah.
he could. And so I read those books a lot. And then a few years ago, I remember hearing about, with Geek Girl Authority, hearing about that they were going to be, making this show. And I was incredibly excited. And I think each season so far has had 8 episodes. So there's 16 episodes out, I believe.
Okay.
And I'm not answering your question. I realize you said, what is it about? So what?
I was partially kidding, but for those who haven't seen it.
So it's how can I say this in fast fashion? It is about these 5 young villagers, in this very rural part of the world, who find themselves caught up in a world of intrigue and magic, and basically finding themselves responsible for saving the world from the Dark One. And there is a person shepherding them through this whole process. Her name is Moraine. She is what's called an Aes Sedai. You can call her a witch, a magic wielder.
The Gone Girl. You can call her a lot of
The Gone Girl. Yeah, exactly.
Rosamund Pike, yes.
And she's trying to shepherd them through this as best they can. They're very distrustful of her, even though she's got their best interests, at heart. And they're basically going from being sheltered at this far remote place of the world and getting, going into these big cities and all this palace intrigue and war and stuff like that.
It
and
is
trying
akin to Game of Thrones, right? I mean, it's not dissimilar in that there are dragons and palace intrigue and all of these things.
Right. There's a little Game of Thrones. There's a little, as far as like cultures being at war with each other and people not, like you said, the palace intrigue, trusting each other. And then it's a little Lord of the Rings, where you have these really unassuming people that didn't want to be heroes, and they're thrown into this world where they have to be heroes. And they find out that what do you do when you find out that the fate of the world is on your shoulders? Do you fight? Do you submit to evil? What do you do?
Yes. And this has a very strong female empowerment bent.
Yes.
The Aes Sedai are all women, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so I'll say this. The Aes Sedai weren't always women, Mandy. Way back when, before the breaking of the world, which we can get into if you want to or not.
I think we're experiencing the breaking of the world right now in 2025.
I know. So
I don't know
think
that I
you and I are
it.
going to be, in fact, we should talk about this later. If we were Aes Sedai, which because there's different color Aes Sedais, like Ajas, blue Aja. Which one would you be? The warrior one, the healer one, whatever. But back in the breaking of the world, men could channel as well. Okay, it's called touching the source, touching the one source. Well, men, we're experiencing this now as well, thought that they could do everything and that they were going to cage the Dark One and evil, and that they were the only ones that could do it. And the women warned them against doing it, but they did it anyway. And they went to cage the Dark One. It went bad. The world, basically exploded. And so men cannot channel anymore or do magic anymore. And if they are born, because you have to be born with this magic inside you, if they are born with, you will go insane. They will go insane and probably take everyone down with them.
Well, here's what Rosamund Pike says, I believe, in the very beginning. I think it's her that says this. This power is meant for women. And when you touch it, you make it filthy. and I felt like all the cheers from the female audience,
I know, right?
like this is a female thing. So yeah, I didn't get about the breaking of the world, but I don't know how many episodes or how many books you need, but I watched this pilot.
Yeah.
And then we see the Aes Sedai, I assume, basically throw a young lady off a cliff into the river. And it's like hazing, right? They're welcoming her. That's part of the ritual of welcome to this.
Yeah. So those
sorority.
are the villagers. That's not Aes Sedai. So
it's not.
That's Egwene. That's off in the Two Rivers, this village that's
so why the hell are they throwing her off a cliff?
So in that culture, in the Two Rivers in Emmonsfield, when a young girl becomes a woman, okay, this is for the TV show. The throwing her off into the water is not in the book. Wearing a braid, like as soon as you become a woman, you get to put your hair in a braid. So all little girls grow up wanting to put their hair in a braid. And so what they were doing was before she could get her braid, that was her rite of passage into womanhood. That was just some crazy villager thing that she did. No, I think what they were trying to show, because there's that one point where she just starts to float because she's going down the rapids. I think that was a little foretelling that she did have a little bit of the magic in her, because she was able to just make the water calm.
Right. We see her magic very much so.
Yeah.
So then we're in the village, and this village is, I wrote, it's so sunny and colorful and warm. And I usually find these villages, like in Game of Thrones, very bleak and sad. And this one is almost utopian to me. It was beautiful. Yet I somehow knew that wasn't going to last. They created this beautiful world, and there was just this undercurrent of danger coming. And I thought
they did a good job with that. Yeah.
Beautiful world building. I really admire that. And then just something I say a lot, I'm realizing about sci-fi and fantasy, the diversity in this cast is exquisite. It's every color of the rainbow, every physical type. I love it so much. And then I wrote, okay, and also they're all just plain beautiful, dear God. This is one of the best looking casts I've ever seen.
They have to make them gorgeous. And that's something, it's just like the recent, I don't know if anyone's had you watch Rings of Power yet. It's a big difference from the book, where the folks that adapted it for television made sure to put the diversity in there, because the diversity wasn't in the book. And I think it's absolutely wonderful. There are those trolls out there. They're just being woke and blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, F you. It's actually wonderful. Good. It's actually a lot more female forward, even though it's a female forward book. It's more female forward in the television adaptation, which I really, really love.
Now, I just had the beautiful actress Amy Crowfoot on, and she was talking about how she's such an avid reader of sci-fi and fantasy, and she won't even watch some of the shows because she's scared it will taint something precious to her, or they won't honor the adaptation won't work. Do you ever feel that way, or are you like, bring it on?
I always want to watch it, because seeing a world created from something I've read for so long is so exciting to me. I think there is a comedian, really great stand-up comic and writer named Ken Napzok. I think he did this. He does a Star Wars podcast. And I think it was him that said, because the last season of Game of Thrones, a lot of people hated, and I didn't care for it. It was rushed, whatever. I didn't, get mad about it. But he always has this thing: don't judge a show for what you wanted it to be. Judge the show for what you were given. And so I always go into it that way, like with a blank slate. And there are some differences where I'm like, I don't get why you did that, but sure. But I really love this adaptation. But I do that, and to like Ken's advice, like there's this book called American Gods, which they did a television adaptation.
Yes,
and I checked out.
To talk about him now.
I'm not going to say the name.
Yes,
I'm just. But it was just like, this isn't for me. This is too much not for me, because this is not really how. But people loved it, and I respect that.
Yeah.
So same with Rings of Power. There's so much hate for Rings of Power, and it's just like whatever. These are. I think sometimes people also just get mad because the Rings of Power is based on Tolkien's appendices. They're not even based on books; they're based on appendices in the Silmarillion, and it's just like just watch it, and if you don't like it, then leave. Like I just posted, or my managing editor just posted. She had an interview with two of the actresses from Wheel of Time. She posted that, and she posted a new trailer that dropped on Geek Girl Authority. And the Facebook conversation is just full of trolls of people that this is not like the book. This is not like the book. And it's like, why are you wasting all that energy leaving a comment on Facebook? Just go back and read the book again and don't watch the TV and be done with it. You are wasting your time. Because the wonderful thing to me is like where I work, I have just turned 2 people onto Wheel of Time. They're never going to read the book, but they are so in love with the show. And I love that they are in love with this world that meant so much to me. I don't care if they never read it.
Right.
So
I see both sides though. I can get really protective and not want to see a reboot or a remake or a adaptation. I can be protective, but I've been pleasantly surprised by for me, it's The Color Purple. That's my favorite book of all time. And then I obviously loved the Spielberg movie, and I really enjoyed the musical new movie they made. I thought it was beautiful and different and honored the original, but brought a new energy to it. So, but I definitely wanted to say, I'm not seeing any adaptation, and I get both sides of it. Now, you have referenced Geek Girl Authority, and like a real jackass, I forgot to say in the beginning that you are the founder, publisher, and editor-in-chief of geekgirlauthority.com. Can you tell everybody what that is in case they didn't hear you on the Farscape episode?
Of course, geekgirlauthority.com. I started that, I used to have a blog called Long Cool Woman with Big Feet because I'm tall and I have very big feet. And I used to just blog just about science fiction and fantasy. And I'm just like, why don't, and I had a couple friends and we decided to put that energy into a website called Geek Girl Authority. And we started and this is back after we used to do some sketch comedy together, Mandy.
Yep.
This was around that time. And we're just going to do sketches where we dress up like robots and go pump gas in our car, which we did. But then it was just too hard to keep up with and expensive. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to start blogging about science fiction and fantasy. And then it went to covering trailers. And then it all of a sudden, it started picking up steam. And then, studios were reaching out to us to do coverage and interviews. And it kind of became an entertainment website, with a genre focus. So I have writers who basically, our mission is to write what we love and make sure that there's that we keep the joy in it. Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do here too. I'm trying to learn new stuff and approach it from a positive place. Why hate on it? Why criticize? Why not just
exactly
enjoy?
You're going into this without I think it was like, okay, what's this make me a nerd? Am I going to go on there and am I going to be made fun of? And that's not what you're doing. You're approaching it with such an open heart and joy. Like joy is so important to me, and I just love it. I just love it.
Thank you. Well, who am I to make fun of anybody, first of all? I might not be a science fiction person, but man, do I have my flaws and quirks that you could go to town. So, all right. Well, so that's Geek Girl Authority. And you've always loved this stuff. I mean, this is not, and
lifelong.
You didn't come to it for your 50th birthday like I did, but
no, true.
Okay. So now back to Wheel of Time. And we're in the pilot, so we're just meeting and getting to know this world. And now we're in this beautiful village. Moraine, Rosamund Pike, and her right-hand man, Lan.
Her warder. Do you know what the warder is? Did you? No. I don't think they. Okay. So each person, except for the Red Aja, the Red Aja is actually a person that the quote you said from the beginning, when you touch it, it's filthy. They go after men. They just hunt men who can channel and capture them and then quote unquote gentle them, take the magic away from them. Everybody else has for lack of a better verbiage, a warder assigned to them. So you have a warrior and you're bonded to each other through magic. So her right-hand man, Lan, he can they can sense each other at all times, and he actually is a better warrior because of their bond. He can live a little longer. He can heal a
Yeah,
little
he's a real
faster.
badass.
Oh God, and he's so hot.
Yes.
But that's beside the point. Speaking of
Right.
beautiful people.
Yes. Well, no
And
one on
he
this
does-
show is not
yeah.
beautiful, but he's very,
Yeah,
very
and
handsome.
he embodies that character so well. That actor is so good. Yeah, so they both come to the Two Rivers, and just a little more of a nerdy side note.
Yeah.
This wonderful village that's on the edge of the, just for lack of a better term, on the edge of the world. You were commenting like on how happy they are. And one of the reasons they're like that is because they've stayed out of any kind of politics. They constantly stay out of politics. And way over in this side of the world, they don't trust. In the books, this is a change. In the books, they don't trust the Aes Sedai. She hides her ring. She doesn't let them know in the book that she's Aes Sedai. And that was a little change they made in the show, is where she immediately shows her ring. And I actually do think that was a great adaptation, because they have 8 episodes. They need to move the story forward.
Right.
And so I thought that was really good. Yeah. So anyway,
Right.
she shows up and things change.
Well, here's something that I talk about a lot. I like when these imaginary worlds look and feel real, or they give us something to connect to. Like, I have done that. I have felt that way. So they check into the inn, and then Moraine and Lan are in a hot tub. And
I know, right?
I really liked it. I thought, yeah, that's what you do. You go to the hotel, you check in, you get cleaned up, and you go down to the hot tub.
Yes.
And it had a whimsical yet grounded feel to it. And we don't see a lot of those details because things get really magical really fast.
Yeah.
So that just,
Right.
I enjoy that relatability. And then, of course, for some reason, we have to see tons of bloody animal carcasses. Why is this such a common theme I was like, oh God, it's like Game of Thrones. I can't handle it with the bloody animal carcasses. Explain, Audrey, why?
Okay, I'm trying to remember. So this is where they just see a bunch of dead animals, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
And the audience sees them in such visceral detail.
Yeah, they did. It was very gory. I think, for this, it was just like to let the viewer know there is something eerie afoot and danger is coming, because you get to see, I think, the two people's reaction, like, this isn't normal, or whoever was
right.
Whoever came across the carcasses were just like, this is bad.
And I guess it harkens back to a time when, like, that would just happen. Animals would die and bleed out, and you didn't have a number to call to come take them away, the way we would today.
Right. Right.
But, I find it so difficult. I find this violence and carnage so difficult. But
yes,
when it's animals, it's just, why?
It's a little too much.
Yeah, for my tender heart. So we're meeting these characters, these 5, and it is akin to, I mean, pretty much all stories, a ragtag group of people who have to carry out a mission. I'm like, it's the Outsiders. It's, I mean, Lord of the Rings. It's everything. And my favorite was Matt with 1 T. I looked it up.
Matt Coppin,
he's very sketchy. He does some conning and some stealing. He's a lot of fun because he seems like his core is good, but he's sketchy.
Yeah.
And are those his kids? He gets it. He buys lanterns. He steals money to buy lanterns to give to the kids, which was so sweet. Are they his kids?
No, that's his younger siblings. His parents are a mess. His dad, it's out womanizing. They both drink too much and they neglect the children, which I think is like his conflict is like, he possibly way, down inside, he wants to be good, but he's learned to con and to, sleight of hand and all this stuff so that he can bring money home so that he could be the one to take care of his siblings, because his parents are off doing God knows what. So that's why he does that little con, and then he goes and buys lanterns for his younger siblings so that they can have that for the Beltane festival.
Now, I want to point out, he buys the lanterns from a character named the Peddler.
Padan Fane is the peddler. Padan Fane, yeah.
Okay, let's just put that out there in the world and then come back to it, because in this scene, he's just a dude who sells stuff in the town.
Right. Yeah. He just comes once a year to their big Beltane festival to sell some wares. Is what they want you to think.
I'm sure there's nothing more to it.
No, he's just coming. That great actor is just coming through for a couple of scenes. That's
now,
it.
Are these recognizable actors? Because I only knew Rosamund Pike.
No. Rosamund Pike, I think, is the only big star that most people know. Well, I guess I didn't word that right. What I meant is you can tell that this guy's a really grounded and great actor. I mean, he's such a good character actor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now I found out because I watched the other episode that you told me to watch, and I can't even locate. Oh, season 2, episode 8. So now we went from the beginning to the end.
I knew that I was I really threw this one out at you because so much happens in those 16 episodes.
No, that's okay. That's my job.
Yeah.
That's why I have a research department, Audrey. Don't you worry about it. But Matt is played by a different actor.
Yes.
And I looked it up and it was yep, you're right, different actor. And they didn't give details.
There is, and I know there is a scandalous story out there, and I can't find it.
It's when
I can't find it. And the thing is, at the end of what I did find is at the last few episodes of season 1, I guess whatever went down during the first season, and his stuff is really cut out. He was supposed to have a bigger presence because he's huge in the book at the end of season 1, but whatever happened, and they brought in a new guy for season 2. And they didn't even do the soap opera thing that they used to do when we were kids. The role of such and such is now played by so-and-so.
Right. Or in the case of Roseanne, do you remember when they switched Becky's on Roseanne? And they called it out so beautifully and
yeah.
What's with you? You don't even look the same. They just made a big deal of it, and I
made
loved
a joke.
it.
Yeah.
Okay, I was hoping you would say, well, I know the skinny. Here's what happened to
I
Matt
looked,
number 1.
Mandy. I looked and looked. I can't find the skinny.
Oh, all right. Well, that's your first demerit. I'm sorry.
Darn it. I'm never going to be asked back.
Okay, so then there's a guy named Perrin, a big, huge, hulking guy. And he goes to visit a woman, and it seems like they're all clandestine and she's working, and then they start kissing, but that's his wife.
It's his wife. Yeah.
Who, whoopsie daisy, he brutally murders during a battle in the pilot.
On accident. Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
That was so hard to see.
That got me because if I remember correctly, Mandy, he at the beginning in the books, he doesn't have a wife. So I think they were doing that, but he always if I remember correctly, and in the book, so he's always so tortured. He's a tortured soul. And I think by doing that, they gave him a reason to be so tortured,
Smart.
Yeah.
It's good justification. I wrote, I can't breathe. Oh my God, he just killed his wife. It was so shocking.
I couldn't believe it. I was just because first of all, I was just oh, what are they going to do with her? And then I'm oh, that's what they're going to do with her.
Yeah. So Moraine is in town, and here come the Trollocs. This lovely race of scary. They're like the orcs. Am I using that?
Orcs. They're very similar to the orcs. Yeah. Absolutely. And I would have a hard time believing any justification from the late Robert Jordan that he wasn't influenced by the orcs. I mean, because they're so which is fine. Everybody's influenced by, something, but yeah.
So first of all, they come to town just to kill and destroy everybody in the town. There's no speech like, we are here to claim this land. They are, right? They just come for mass destruction. And there seem to be about 3,750,000 of these Trollocs compared to the
755,000.
Is that how many there are?
No.
Oh, I was like, what? I was close.
No, I don't know.
No, there's so many. They're endless Trollocs.
Yeah.
Every time they kill, 6 or 7 of them in a battle, you turn around and there's 50 more on their way. I mean, endless orcs. Trollocs, excuse me. So they're killing and destroying and dragging off women, and it's awful. Why doesn't Moraine jump in sooner, Audrey? She's there. She can use her magic. She does.
That's a good question. I don't know. I didn't realize that I don't remember her taking so long to jump in. But yeah,
when
I'm
she
trying to
jumps
remember if
in, she uses her magic to
right away.
right? And I'm thinking, wait,
Yeah.
we've just lost 100
So many
villagers.
people. Yeah.
Like, what have you been doing? Were you in the hot tub? Do something, Moraine.
Yeah. It does take her. I don't know. It's probably storytelling justification. We need to show you. We showed you animal carcasses. We're going to show you these people getting killed.
Yes. I was very sad to see the village destroyed. Because as I said, I was so in love with that bright, sunny, comforting village.
Yeah.
And now it's, even though I felt it was coming. So one thing I noticed is that when Rosamund Pike Moraine jumps in to handle her shit and kill the Trollocs, she has to do that thing. I'm doing a visual on my podcast where all she does is like put her hands forward. And then the visual effects take over and light is shooting out of her hands.
Yeah.
Have you ever spoken to any of these actors about how awkward that must feel?
Yeah, because they are basically asking you to. I haven't personally, but you're an actor. I'm an actor, and you know that you have to really go in there and figure that choreography out. And it's a big bottle of make believe that you're doing in front of everybody, and you just hope that they make you look okay.
Right? I mean, and that happened.
I know that she.
A lot in this show for her, especially.
Absolutely. And that just gets more and more and more because you're going to start throughout the book, you start reading, throughout the show, you start meeting more people with the magic. And then you would watch the end of season 2. So you saw even a lot more of that because what they're doing is weaving the different elements into basically spells. I think the good thing about Rosamund Pike, I believe, is she was a big part of getting this on the air because she was a big fan of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so she had read these books. And so I'd love to know, like sit down with her and see if she, I assume she was probably a big part of figuring out what that look was to weave the magic. And I'm now doing a visual as well.
Right. And wait, now I'm under your spell. It's really in a different show, it would be laughable to watch a person just stick their hands out and kill people just by holding their hands out. It's well done. The visual effects are really fancy. And this show must have such a high budget. I kept writing, oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
Like it's just the world is built so well and the makeup
the
and
visual effects
visual
are
effects.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. I imagine it's a very, very high budget. Okay. So how does the pilot end? Remind me. I didn't write anything about it, but you get the sense she's like, come on, you 5, you have to come with me. We have to find the dark one, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, she's letting them know that if you don't leave this town, the Trollocs came here for you because they know they don't. So of those 5, they don't know which one is the chosen one, basically, the Dragon Reborn. That's another thing, Mandy, from the books. Immediately, it's only a man that's going to be the Dragon Reborn. And I love what they did in the show where it could be any 5 of them. It could be Nynaeve or Egwene. It doesn't have to be one of the 3 boys.
And what is the main guy's name? I haven't even brought him up yet. The redhead.
Rand al'Thor. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so she's letting them know one of you 5 is the Dragon Reborn, the chosen one. The Trollocs are going to destroy this town until they find you. So all your families are going to die unless we leave now. So she's able to convince them to go with her to the White Tower and figure out what to do.
Okay, so that's basically how it ends. Then 7 more episodes of drama and intrigue that I don't see. Then 7 more episodes of drama and intrigue that I don't see. But I did watch a guy named the Man of Recaps on YouTube.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Okay. So I wrote, he's so good at this. And he sounds a bit like Seth MacFarlane. And he's snarky in a fun way because he clearly loves this material, but he'll comment on like, and then just by sticking her hand out, she kills a bunch of people, like he's snarky, but it's not mean spirited. So thank you, Man of Recaps, because by watching that, I wrote, So the peddler is behind all of this? Tell me everything.
Okay, so
The
the peddler is what you would.
aforementioned peddler.
Yeah, so his name's Padan Fane. So the dark one has still like, so think of Satan, the devil, and everything. The dark one has extended his reach even from his prison because he was imprisoned. Um, and he's been able to reach people, and they're called dark friends, basically servants of the dark one.
All I
And
can
so
picture is Trump in a prison cell reaching Bannon and
I know.
Elon Musk in the dark friends. That's all I
I
see.
know.
Okay.
Oh God, that's so painful. Yeah, so Padan Fane, the peddler, is a dark friend, and he's been going there trying to he knows something's going on there, and he's been trying to figure out which one, and he kind of has been leading the Trollocs there, and so yeah, and throughout, I think you meet a couple more. I know you at least meet one more dark friend, um, in season 1 or season 2. And then there's even in Aja, like I was saying, all the Ajas of the White Tower for the Aes Sedai, there's different colors. And there's one called the Black Aja that nobody knows about. It's underground. They hope it doesn't exist, but they've heard tale that it exists. And those are Aes Sedai who serve the Dark One. So there are people like that you have met already in the series that could possibly be part of the Black Aja. You just don't know it yet.
Okay.
You know, you never know who you're talking to if they're a dark friend or not. But Padan Fane was definitely one of the higher up dark friends who was trying to help the dark one.
Right. It was shocking to see him as a charming peddler, and then all of a sudden, you know, the reveal was that he's really evil and powerful. So there are so many characters on most of these shows. How do you emotionally invest when you're constantly like, oh, there's a new race. Oh, we didn't know that there were, 14 extra members of this. How do you emotionally invest? I find it difficult to grab on.
I think that's a really great point. I think I'm a little luckier in this sense. I emotionally invested over 13 books, so I already, it's like this, when a TV show, and if no one's done this with you, it will be the next one we do together. There's a TV show called The Expanse. Have you done that one yet? Okay. Just keep that in mind.
I gotta
so
make a note. I gotta make a note, or you're gonna get texts. What did we say? So
the Expanse, and that's based on a series of books too. And so I was emotionally invested in those characters, and same with Rings of Power Lord of the Rings, and but then I see people who are so. I meet people who are so invested who have only watched the television show, but they have become attached, I sometimes wonder nowadays if people say, I don't know, you fall in love with Egwene or you become so attached to Egwene. Are they going online and then looking up everything about her and then becoming more invested? I don't know, because I'm already invested going into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, another thing that sucks is you get invested and then they get murdered. They get beheaded like 2 scenes after you think, oh, that's charming. I like that person. But I guess, it's, to be fair, I watched one pilot. And then when I watched the series recap, the season 1 recap, I was like, there's too many characters. And that's when I wanted to ask you this question. But if you're watching each episode, a character gets introduced and you learn
that's true,
whether they're good or bad or who they have allegiance to. So it's not just felt like a barrage to me.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. Like you do get a little more of an introduction,
right?
There have been some characters that I'm curious about season 3 that especially this one character that's so important to the books that was kind of sacrificed, and that would be my biggest that doesn't make any sense to me. Why aren't we meet him once in season 1? His name's Tom Maryland, and he is so important to the entire series of books. I'm curious. But it's been 2 seasons and they've only had him in 1 or 2 episodes. So I'm hoping they bring him back, but maybe they just said it's like the Dune movies. I won't go into it, but there's like something called the Spacing Guild. These navigators that are so important to the mythology of the book. But I guess Christopher Nolan's it was just like, okay, we're not going to spend too much time on this because the world is way too big. You know what I mean?
Look,
yeah.
Every once in a while, there are dozens of housewives. They have to get demoted down to friend of because there's too many housewives. I get it.
Yeah. That's a good analogy.
Thank you, Audrey. I watched your face go from like, is she serious? She is the world's biggest moron to, oh, she's
no,
partially kidding.
I was thinking, and I was like, no, I've been having such great conversations about housewives lately. And because with like people at work and stuff, and because I fell off the wagon for the past few years.
Oh, but
and I didn't realize
you've watched Housewives?
Oh my God, I was so addicted to New Jersey and New York and Beverly Hills for the longest time. And then I got so busy with Geek Girl Authority, I haven't gotten back to it. And my friends were telling me all the spinoffs. I was like, are you serious? And they're like, oh my God, we watch every single one. And I was just like, I love it. I love that there's something for everyone, Yeah. I mean, my big weakness is Below Deck. I don't know if you've ever watched it. It's hot trash.
It's very trashy.
And by the way, I said Christopher Nolan, just to correct myself. I said Christopher Nolan. I meant Denis Villeneuve for Dune.
Okay.
I got the wrong director. I need to correct myself.
Duly noted. But Below Deck for me, I like watching because I like imagining I could ever afford to go on a yacht.
I know, right?
That's so much fun. I actually don't care about the crew. That's what we're supposed to be watching is the crew and all their drama, right? Don't care. I'm like, so they can just order breakfast, whatever they want. Like I am definitely intrigued by yacht life. Okay, so now I have watched my recap and I'm on season 2, episode 8. And this is where I wrote, geez, what's the budget? But we've already covered that. And then I asked, I think I'm confused. Do the braids give the Aes Sedai power? But I think you just explained the braids and the Aes Sedai are different.
Yeah. So there's the braids for the women of the Two Rivers, a small village, they wear a braid. And I think by the time you get to that episode, are you talking about the villains who have the braids?
I might be. No, I wrote, do the braids give Aes Sedai power?
No, they don't. I think there is some Aes Sedai that wear smaller braids in their hair. Like one big braid is what the women of the Two Rivers wear. If there's any other kind of braids, it's just wardrobe and how they look.
Gotcha. Now, this was a battle heavy episode.
Yeah, really this was a big culmination. Yeah.
And I said, they are beautifully choreographed, but I get bored with long battle sequences. Do you ever get bored?
No, not with battle sequences, not with stuff like that. I get really into it. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Do you watch like wrestling or UFC or any of those things?
No. That's interesting because I'm not. It's so funny. I'm not. I don't like boxing. I don't like UFC. I can't. I cannot watch the violence of it.
Me neither.
And people. But somehow, if it takes place in space or with wizards, I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
So, like one of my favorite battles is in Lord of the Rings Return of the King. I mean, half that movie is a battle and I love every single part of it. It's just amazing. Anytime there's a space battle in a movie or a TV show, I'm just like, I'm on the edge of my seat. And Game of Thrones, sometimes I would kind of look away a little bit because they were so realistic, the gore and the people getting heads chopped off and arms chopped off and everything. That was a little too real for me. That was part of that ethos of that show. And I would just kind of look down at my knees.
Right.
Or something with those. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I guess I love the whole West Side Story rumble, but but one thing I noticed in all of this watching that I'm doing is it's very common that the enemy armies either have masks or monster faces. So we can't, I wrote stormtroopers or Trollocs or orcs.
Yeah.
So we can't care when 30 of them die in a hail of gunfire or whatever. We're immune because, we couldn't really see them. They don't see, they're not human to us. So it does help. And in this epic battle, Matt, the aforementioned rapscallion, who's now played by a different actor, he accidentally spears Rand, our male hero. And I gasped, and I couldn't believe it that really happened.
I'm trying to remember that because it's been a while since I saw that. Was that towards the end?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
And then here's my one of my complaints about this genre is then Rand is magically healed, even though he was just speared through. And I always admire shows that kill off lead characters, that surprise us by doing that.
Yeah.
And there's so many close calls, like the Beauty and the Beast close call on the show. I guess not with Perrin's wife, but she wasn't really a character, as you just explained to me. So my question to you is, over these 2 seasons, have they killed off characters that it was shocking to you? Is this that kind of show? Game of Thrones did it, I know.
Yeah, they have. Let me try to remember. I do think if this is the injury I'm thinking about that's in the books and they do it in the show, that injury never quite heals, and it causes him a lot of pain. If it's the injury I'm thinking of, I know, right? I don't think that, yes, they will. They will if they follow the books. And I think in season 1, there is a warder who loses his Aes Sedai, and it basically illustrates. I mean, there's a great another intense scene where they've caged someone that could be the Dragon Reborn. It obviously isn't. It's this guy that can wield magic, and that actor is so good too. And they're basically he's imprisoned by magic, and there have to be 3 Aes Sedai at a time focused on him so he doesn't escape, and they keep new shifts keep coming in and keeping him caged, and something goes awry and he kind of escapes. There's a bit of a magic battle, and I think this one warder's Aes Sedai dies, and he basically can't live without her because they've been bonded, through magic. And I mean, they have protocols and therapy and stuff because this has happened before. You can go to another Aes Sedai, and the warder takes his own life, and it's pretty heartbreaking. They do a really good job, and I wasn't expecting that. And I remember this guy at work I was telling you about that I turned he and his wife onto the show. He just came up to me one day and he's just like, I couldn't stop crying last night. Me and my wife just cried because the guy took his own life, and I was just like, oh, sorry, so and that actor was so good. He did such a good job. Like, you really fell for him, and he was so good. And then it was hard enough watching him lose the person that was most important to him, and then he takes his own life, and it was crushing.
Yeah, I really respect that. I love a show that will do that. It keeps you totally engaged, knowing anything could happen. That's like a real passion of mine.
And in the season 1 finale, there's a leader, not a king, I forget what he's called, but a leader of a place called Faldara, and he dies as well.
So I was trying to play a lot of catch up, obviously, because this was 2 seasons essentially that I missed. And now Egwene is a prisoner or a slave to a very angry female race. Why are they so angry? What was up with that? And by the way, Egwene, she's so beautiful.
She's
I
ridiculously beautiful.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's so good. So that culture, they're called the Shanchan, and they have been no one knows about them. They live across the sea.
Okay.
And they're descendants of a famous person named Arthur Hawkwing, which is very King Arthur and his court name. And I forget Arthur Hawkwing's mythology, but basically how they've evolved is any person who can, they believe they're the descendants of Arthur Hawkwing, so they rightfully can take control of the whole world. They have this whole ethos and religion about that. And anybody who can a channel is basically an animal. Okay. So when they find women who can channel like Egwene, so they come in and invade. They come and invade this part of the world. And anybody that they can find who can channel, they put this magic device on them that basically makes them they can't escape.
Right.
Because it has magic, and then they are like attached to.
It's almost like a Regina George brace on their neck, and then that covers their mouth. Yeah,
exactly. And they're called demoni, which is and the people and they're assigned. A woman is assigned to them to control them, and they're called their suldam, basically their master. And they train them. They treat them like pets, and they have to do whatever they say. They use them in battle and everything. And so they're trying to take over that part of the world, claiming that it's their right, and enslaving these magic wielders. And the whole interesting thing, because some women have the power, but they would never know it because it's so tiny. Maybe they can affect how they feel for a day, or how somebody, they just don't know it. And I think what they, like in the episode you watched, what they end up finding out is those suldam who are controlling them, they wouldn't be able to control them unless they had a little magic in them to begin with. And so basically they're finding out, oh, we're the animals too, and so it kind of rocks their world.
Well, they are nasty. They are like,
oh my God,
the ultimate mean girls. Awful.
The costume and makeup on the Shan-Chan was just astonishing. It was just beautiful.
Yeah.
Wonderfully realized.
And they're beautiful. Like, I mean,
of course.
God,
ridiculous.
Everyone is so good looking. So one thing I really missed in the episodes that I watched by bookending this, I didn't really see Moraine interacting with the five. Is there a good portion of it where they're on their journey together and she's with them? Because she was always just isolated. Like in this episode, she's on the beach doing magic for almost the whole episode. She's just on the beach. And I wanted to see her in the fray with the kids.
Yeah. So yes, in a good part of season 1, she is trying to get them to the White Tower. They get split up. Some of them are reunited. There's this whole, which, that's another hour for us to talk about. There's this whole underground magic highway that they go through that's infested by evil, and so she's trying to keep them safe. They grow a bit they never are quite fully trustful of her for some reason, maybe because she took them away from their village, and everything, and the Dark One is infecting their dreams, trying, because he still has a little bit of a hold on them, so they don't know who to trust. In the books, they don't trust her completely because she's Aes Sedai, because they've been raised not to trust Aes Sedai. So yes, there is a good part of it where she's shepherding them. And I thought one of the interesting things about the book is that I feel she never gets the respect she deserves. But that's part of the way it's written, is like, she knows she has a mission to help save the world. And if that means that people are going to hate her, she's still going to go through with it. And I think it's a very lonely, sad life for her.
Except for Lan. I mean, he is, maybe it's just based on that actor or that hot tub moment. I don't know what it is. But when I asked if you get emotionally invested, he's the one I was emotionally invested in. He seemed so loyal and passionate and true.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Lan, because I think you should know this since you like that character so much. And there is a great episode where he brought me to tears when in season 1. He's such a good actor. So he was meant to be a king. He lives off on the far reaches next to this area called the Blight, where the Dark One is kind of reaching out into the world. And he is from, I believe, a kingdom called Malkir. His name's Alan Mandragoran. And that whole kingdom was taken over by the Blight, and people were able to save him. So he was raised in, I believe, Faldara, and he kind of doesn't want to talk about the fact that his parents died. He doesn't want anybody to know that he was supposed to be a king. So he lives he's a really tortured soul, and he meets Moraine, and they get bonded to each other. And it's very interesting because they butt heads a lot, but they also have the deepest respect for each other, and they will do anything for each other. And you really see that at in all those episodes you missed. You really see that connection. Yeah,
that actor's name is Daniel Henney. I want to give him
Daniel Henney,
because we've been talking about him a lot. And then the end of this episode takes a real shift where they go into this room in the palace or castle or something, and there's a weird looking Björk lady there.
Yeah.
Who's she?
So, Mandy, let me tell you. So there's this at the end of season 1, they think they defeated the Dark One, but then they realize they didn't. All they did was release one of the Forsaken. So there are I don't know how many Forsaken there are, like maybe a dozen, and they are, think of disciples. They're the Dark One's disciples.
Okay.
And the one who was released is Ishamael, and you see him in the last episode you saw. He was the guy with the dark hair and the beard.
Yep.
That was okay. He's one of the Forsaken.
Right.
And another one of the Forsaken was the woman he fought with at the end, Lanfear, and he ends up imprisoning her, I think, putting her in a cage. I don't know. And basically they're the disciples who are doing his bidding. So I believe the woman at the end, the Björk sounding lady, was another, there's all these seals that have been broken, and all the Forsaken have escaped and are in the world, and you don't know who's who. And she's one, I think her name is Mogideon, something like that. And she was like, it was interesting that they're choosing her, if I remember correctly, because she was maybe one of the lesser powerful ones, or lesser, not as respected as much as the other Forsaken. They were all so much more powerful. And I think what the writers are doing here is they're just like, oh, really? Was she not as powerful or respected? Because she was scary.
Yes.
And he looked scared to death. And I thought that was a really great ending. I was like, what are they going to do with this?
Right.
I don't care if it doesn't follow the book. I
So
want to see
she is
this.
a new character that we only meet her in that last scene.
Yes, if you haven't met her yet, yes.
Okay.
She just appeared at that moment.
She was very intriguing and scary.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Very scary.
Oh my goodness. So how excited are you for the premiere?
I can't wait, because when we had, before we had all of our, scheduling issues, I didn't know that this was premiering in March. I don't know how. I knew that the new season was coming out. I just didn't realize it was so close. So I loved, because I did looked up some recaps and stuff like that, and I watched a few episodes to prepare, and I'm just so excited now because it's all fresh in my head now. And I can't wait. I can't wait.
Is there anything else about Wheel of Time that you want me or the world at large to know?
I just, immerse yourself in it, because every once in a while you get to see a property that has a new system of magic that you've never seen before. And I think that's Wheel of Time. It's a new system of magic. It's not wands and wizards and classic systems of magic. And I think that this is it, and I think like Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, even though I love them so much, it's very ubiquitous. It's everywhere.
Right.
We know so much about them. And that's what's so great about Wheel of Time. It's kind of sneaking up on everybody because nobody, only like really huge epic fantasy fans really knew about it. And so you get to learn, you get 16 episodes right now of a world you know nothing about, and there's no spoilers. So immerse yourself in it and have fun, because the spoilers aren't out there yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I thank you, because I have to say I enjoyed watching it. I found a lot to like, but you just made it so much richer because you explained things in a way I really could understand and grasp.
Right. Good.
So I'm watching and hearing a lot of words and thinking, I'm sure I'll understand what that means by the end of this episode. And then I wouldn't. And so you made that all clear for me. And this show is just spectacularly produced. I mean, it
is
visually stunning, beautifully acted. So for anyone who likes Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings or even you said palace intrigue, so anything of that ilk, it's a really good one. I think it's a level up from some of the stuff I've been seeing and considering. So
I think so too. It's a lot of fun.
Thank
I love it.
you.
I love seeing it. I like it.
Thank you for sharing it with me.
I forgot to tell you at the beginning of the show, I'm wearing my Wheel of Time necklace that Brian gave me for Christmas. I wanted to show you.
Yeah. So this is 2 episodes of my show you've done, and both times you've had the paraphernalia
I've had visual aids for you.
I love it. Okay, well, let me tell everybody my business, and then you can tell everybody where they can find you, if that's
wonderful.
Fair. Okay, so Make Me a Nerd is a production of True Story FM, engineering by the peerless Pete Wright. My theme song is Wonderstruck by Jane and the Boy. You can find me on Instagram at Mandy_Kaplan_Clavens, both with K's. And now I'm on Blue Sky, which I think is something Audrey introduced me to.
Maybe.
At Mandy Miscast. If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. Hit that 5-star button and write a review. Weigh in on what you think of these shows. Make suggestions for something I should be watching or reading. I really love the participation from anyone listening. And if you want to participate even more and support my mission, please go to makemeanerd.com/join. $5 a month gets you your episodes ad-free and early and bonus content. That's all I've got. Audrey, where can everybody find you and what you're doing with Geek Girl Authority?
Yes, please check out geekgirlauthority.com. Like I said, we're an entertainment website with a focus on a genre. You can find us on all the big social media platforms, usually at Geek Girl Authority. There's a couple where that was too many characters and it's at Geek Girl Off. But you can find us there. And please do come by the site and support us with your traffic, support us with your follows. We are an independent website. Anything that we make goes back to my contributors in the form of stipends. So any love that you can show us and help support my writers as they continue to hone their writing skills would be much appreciated. And
Look, it's a way to have this interaction, the water cooler talk about a show you love. It's there on Geek Girl Authority. You can geek out about a movie or a book you love, and who doesn't want more of that?
Exactly. And we do breaking news. We get interviews. Like I've got an interview right now that my editor did with a couple characters from Wheel of Time. But we also say you're a Severance fan. Right now we have an article running about 5 books if you like Severance. So there's little things like that. 5 shows if you like Severance. So, there's whatever you need, we got it for you.
All right. Well, Jer loves Severance, so I'm going to send him to get those recommendations because he's always looking for good books too.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thank you, Audrey. I'm so glad it worked out.
Me too.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. And coming up, I'm very excited to have Lester Ryan Clark and Keenan Diaz back. We are doing Everything Everywhere All at Once, a movie I have been terrified of, but we're doing it. So tune in for that. Bye.